In the heart of medieval Bern, Switzerland, winter cloaks the city in silence. A noble estate glows warmly in the distance, while a mysterious figure drifts through the falling snow, a whisper of a legend long told. In the heart of Switzerland, nestled between the arms of the Aire River, lies the old city of Bern, where winters embrace the land in an eternal white hush. There, amid cobblestone streets and ancient stone bridges, a legend persists, the tale of Isolde von Gravenstein, the Eternal Snow Maiden. Her name is whispered in the cold breath of the mountains, her presence felt in the shadows of falling snowflakes. Some call her a spirit, others a ghost, but the elders of Bern speak of her as something far more haunting, a woman who defied fate and was claimed by winter itself. Every year, when the first snow descends upon the city, travelers claim to see a figure watching from the edges of the frost-bitten forests. Some say she is waiting, others say she is searching. But all agree on one thing: she is real. The winter ball of House Gravenstein. The year was 1487, and the grand halls of House Gravenstein glittered with candlelight, silver, and wine. The air was thick with laughter and music as the nobility of Bern gathered for the annual winter ball, a celebration of wealth, power, and politics disguised beneath silk gowns and gilded masks. Lords and ladies twirled across the marble floors, their whispers drowned by the waltzing violins. Among them stood Isolde von Gravenstein, the only daughter of Duke Albrecht von Gravenstein, a woman of rare and delicate beauty. Her presence turned heads, her pale gown catching the light as if woven from the snow itself. But beneath her composed smile lay a storm of sorrow. She did not belong here. Not anymore. That night, her father had made his grand announcement: she was to be wed to Lord Frederick von Solm, a nobleman from Zurich with wealth, ambition, and a heart as cold as the ice on the Aire River. Isolde had smiled, curtsied, and played the perfect daughter. But her heart was not hers to give. It already belonged to another, Elias, the scholar. While the nobility drank and danced, Isolde slipped away into the corridors of her family's estate, her breath quick with anticipation. In the bitter cold of the night, she had made her choice. She would run far from the weight of noble duty, run into the arms of the man she loved. She just didn't know she was walking into a tragedy. The grand winter ball at House Gravenstein dazzles with golden chandeliers and swirling gowns, yet Isolde von Gravenstein stands apart, her heart weighed down by the love she must leave behind. The betrayal under the snow. The courtyard was silent except for the wind whispering through the frost-covered trees. Isolde pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders, the snow crunching softly beneath her as she moved through the hidden garden paths. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had agreed to meet Elias by the frozen riverbank, where a horse awaited to carry them far from Bern, to freedom, to love, to the unknown. But as she reached the clearing, she knew something was terribly wrong. The snow before her was stained red, and there, sprawled in the cold, was Elias. His body was still, his eyes staring blankly at the falling snowflakes, his blood painting the frost around him in cruel contrast. No, the whisper barely left her lips before a shadow moved behind her. She turned sharply. Lord Frederick von Solm stood just beyond the trees, a sword in his hand, its edge slick with fresh blood. "You would shame me for a man of dirt." His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with rage. "You were mine to wed, and you thought you could run." Isolde's breath came in gasps, her entire world unraveling around her. "You," she choked, barely able to form words. "You murdered him." Frederick took a slow step forward, snow crunching under his boots. "No," he said, "I corrected a mistake." Isolde felt something break inside her. A cold fury rose in her chest, a grief so consuming it burned away all fear. She dropped to her knees beside Elias, cradling his lifeless body, pressing her forehead against his. And then, the wind changed. The trees began to shudder, their branches shaking under the force of an unseen power. Snow lifted from the ground, swirling like a storm that had been waiting for centuries to be unleashed. Frederick took a step back. "What is this?" The air cracked with something ancient, something not of this world. Isolde raised her head, her skin had turned pale, almost translucent, as if the very winter had seeped into her bones. Her eyes, once filled with warmth, were now glacial, glowing with something eternal. Frederick stumbled, panic flickering across his face. "No," he breathed. Isolde rose to her feet, the wind spiraling around her. The snowstorm bent to her will, whispering secrets only she could understand. Frederick turned to run, but winter had already claimed him. The snow swallowed his scream. Under the frozen moonlight, Isolde cradles Elias's lifeless body, her grief turning into something far more powerful. Behind her, Lord Frederick von Solm watches, his blade still wet with betrayal. The storm begins to rise. The legend takes root. When the storm subsided, Isolde was gone. Frederick's body was never found. The only trace of him was a set of footprints leading into the snow, footprints that vanished before reaching the forest's edge. By morning, the servants of House Gravenstein spoke in fearful whispers. Some claimed that Isolde had perished in the storm, taken by grief. Others believed something far more unearthly, that the storm had become her, that she had become the snow itself. And so, the legend began. It was said that on the coldest nights, Isolde's ghost could be seen wandering the outskirts of Bern, her presence marked by sudden gusts of wind and the inexplicable feeling of being watched. Travelers whispered of an ethereal woman who appeared to guide the lost, or, in some cases, to lure them deeper into the snow, never to be seen again. The city of Bern had many myths, but none so chilling as the Snow Maiden who never truly died. A visitor in the snow. Centuries passed. By 1923, most dismissed the legend as superstition, a fairy tale for cold nights. But not Jonas Meyer. A young historian obsessed with Switzerland's oldest myths, Jonas arrived in Bern determined to prove the story of the Snow Maiden was more than just a folktale. He combed through archives, traced forgotten letters, and interviewed villagers who still swore they had seen her. And then, one night, deep in the forests beyond Bern, he did. She was standing there, between the trees, bathed in the glow of the moon. A woman dressed in white, untouched by the cold, her silver hair shimmering like frozen silk. Jonas took a step closer, breath fogging in the air. Isolde, he whispered. She tilted her head, her lips parted, but no sound came. Only the wind. Jonas never returned from that journey. His notebook was found buried in the frost, containing only a single sentence. She is real, and she is waiting. Asterisk. In the heart of a raging snowstorm, Isolde von Gravenstein becomes the legend itself, the Snow Maiden of Bern. Her sorrow echoes in the wind as the icy world bends to her presence, sealing her fate in the eternal frost. The Eternal Watcher. They say if you stand on the Nidegg Bridge on the first snowfall of winter, you can see her. A lone figure, watching from the distant white expanse, her presence nothing more than a shiver against your skin. Perhaps she waits for something. Perhaps she chooses who to call into the cold. Or perhaps, just perhaps, the Snow Maiden of Bern is no longer as alone as she once was. In the modern era, historian Jonas Meyer ventures deep into the snow-covered forest near Bern, only to find the legend waiting for him. Isolde von Gravenstein, the Eternal Snow Maiden, stands motionless in the frost, her haunting gaze fixed upon him. Epilogue. A whisper in the wind. The next time the snow falls, listen carefully. In the hush of the winter wind, if you listen closely enough, you might just hear her calling your name.